corners of my mind. Mystic watercolor scattered pictures.
Verrochi. Presented by one of the greatest running backs in Watertown High history, Hall of Famer Bobby Capadonna.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to all the inductees. I, like Richie Green, are getting to that age where the bifocals are probably going to be needed. I wrote a speech today to talk about, well, first of all, let me say this to you. When I was asked to introduce this Al, I'm probably prouder to do this than he is receiving the award. I've known Al since I think we first met in the 8th grade when we competed against each other in basketball. At the time, there was the East Junior High School and the West Junior High School. And I had heard about this guy, Al Verrochi, from the East End, that was a great basketball player, great athlete, and Bobby Naughton and Harvey Bazarian and Stagger and a couple other guys. But we weren't too concerned because we had some pretty good athletes that came from the West End. Well, we end up, as I remember, we won the basketball game, which was very important at that time. But what was more important is that I made a friend, and I made a friend for life. When I think of the athletes today, I think of their dedication and their ability to perform under adverse conditions. And when you look at Al Verrochi, just to give you an example, we both participated in a game in high school in 1960. We had a great football team. I really think they're probably one of the top 5 football teams that ever come out of Watertown High School. And we lost one game that season to Beverly High School. And a lot of you, this game is still talked about. A lot of you might not know about it, but a lot of you do, and it's still talked about, that the game ended in a controversial call and a bad call. And as friends, as Al and I were right in the middle of this controversy. And what happened was we were losing the game. We got down to the 4-yard line, last play of the game. We called the timeout. Being competitors, I wanted the ball, Al wanted the ball, and who ended up with the ball as it bounced off a referee and ended the game? Who stole it? That's right, and he retired. Our senior year, I'll get to that. I'm losing what I want here. During that Beverly game, I'm not going to use this thing. During that Beverly game, Al suffered a slight concussion, and the following week practiced very little. And we were playing a tough Haverhill team the following week. The record was out that they were going to give us a beating, and that we had now lost, and they were going to say what type of athletes we were at Watertown. And during the week, things were very down. Matter of fact, I remember Frank Salito coming up to me during the week and saying, "Cappy, what's going on with this football team?" And I said, "Don't worry, I think we've got it under control." And Al and I talked that week after the loss. It was a devastating blow for us at that time in our career. So Al didn't practice all week. The game started, and I don't think Al even started the game. But as a true athlete that he is, he recovered very quickly and got in the ball game. And as habit, he ended up with his career game. I think he rushed for like 112 yards, scored 14 points, and was just unbelievable. And he was one of the major reasons for a big upset over Haverhill. Al was a great offensive player, but he was also a superb defensive player. And he was a type of defensive player that if you were at a football game and someone broke into the secondary and all of a sudden you heard a whack and the guy was down, you didn't have to look. It was probably number 18 with his famous tackle right below the knees. He was not only a great football player, but Al was a good baseball player. And I think Hall of Fame coach George Jankowski can testify to that, and I think he's probably best known for a game against Brockton. They were losing the game, bases loaded, and Al gets up and hits a towering grand slam home run. George Jankowski, the only words he could say was, wow, wow. And he said, I mean, that was a blast. That was a shot that was heard around the world. When you talk of today's athletes, a lot of athletes don't have class. And what is class? Class is not making excuses. It's taking your lumps and learning from it. Class is being considerate of others. Everyone is easy around the person who has class because that person is comfortable with himself. And I tell you this from my heart, Al Verrochi is class. It is with great pride and love that I introduce to you my best friend, Hall of Fame inductee, Al Verrochi.
That's unbelievable, Bob. I'll tell you something. Bobby Capadonna, great guy, truly a great friend, and he's proved it tonight. We go back a long, long way. I got married 31 years ago. Bobby was my best man, and he's still my best man. Thank you very much, Bob. This is truly a great honor, and it's even a bigger honor having Bobby introduce me. Thank you, Bob. I'd like to thank Bob Caprillion for all the work that he's done for this Watertown Hall of Fame. Bob, you're doing a great job, believe me. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee who voted for me, and I especially like to thank Ben Rowdy, who nominated me. Ben called me 3 months ago, said, Al, I'd like to nominate you for the Hall of Fame. And I said, gee, that's great, but why you? Why me? And he said, when I was in junior high, he said, you were my hero. You were the guy that I went to see to play on Saturday. And I can relate to that because when I was in junior high, Paul Basile was my hero. I also would like to thank my coaches. Now, my coaching staff was a great bunch of guys. Not only were they a great bunch of guys, but they were also my friends. It's been 34 years since I've been out of high school, and these coaches are still my friends. That's how unique it is. And I like to acknowledge these guys. First of all, head coach is Vic Palladino. My backfield coach and good buddy, Frank Salito. Frank Cousino, our line coach, and Bob Dupree, coach and trainer. Now, me too, I'd like to go back and maybe have a few memories. I can recall when Frank Salito took us aside one afternoon while we were practicing and said, Bobby, Al, he says, you fellas just don't know how to throw a straight arm. He said, I'm going to show you the right way and the wrong way to throw a straight arm. So he proceeds to go out, and it's a live play, and the fella comes in to tackle him. He throws a straight arm, and he comes walking back to the huddle with holding his hand. And I said, what's the matter, Coach? He said, well, that's the wrong way to throw a straight arm. He says, I just broke my finger. And I looked at Cappy, and I say, boy, what a gutty guy. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, he could have showed us the right way and not break his finger. What do we know? And another story I have is Frank Cousino. You know, everybody's been mentioning the Brookline game, and Frank Cousino was our motivator. He really was. You can ask any one of the ball players out here. Everybody's talking about that Brookline game. Mr. Pappas, Frank even mentioned it. Bob Dupree, he mentioned it. But I know the real reason, and I'll tell you why. Because when we came in at halftime, it was 6-0, and this is the first time that our team was behind at halftime. That was very unusual for us. Vic Palladino just finished his speech, told us what plays we had to do. That was all set, and he turned and he said, Coach Cuzzo, do you have anything to say to these players? Cuzzy didn't say anything. He just walked down the line of players that were sitting with their heads down in front of the locker. And all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, this motivator turned around and grabbed the toughest guy on our team, Tom Stanley, grabbed him by the shirt, threw him up against the locker and said, "You got guts, you got guts." Tommy said, "Yeah, I got guts." Now we're all sitting there looking at this guy saying, "What's going on?" He says, "Go out and beat this team." And man, we went out screaming, yelling. As you can attest, we beat this good Brookline team 18-6. They never scored again. I want to thank you, Frank. I also feel that our team, 1961, was one of the better teams that came out of Watertown High. I really and truly think that some of these ball players that played with me will also be in the Hall of Fame, if not the whole team. So, in remembrance, I like to say that it's not the honor of your accomplishments, but it's the memories. And I'm proud to say that I will